Ladies and gentlemen, I spent 25 years wearing the Army cloth. I served with the 82nd Airborne Division. I served with the Army Green Berets. For 25 years, I was defending the freedom of America. What we have today is a rogue administration. This is only one of the many executive orders, unconstitutional executive orders that they have passed, along with this order from the ATF. My message to the Biden administration is the American people will no longer allow unelected bureaucrats to pass these so-called laws, which are not laws passed by Congress. My message to the American people is we are standing here for you. The rogue Biden administration is now put on notice that Congress will stop these unconstitutional actions.
Okay, welcome back. Wednesday, 13 June, year of our Lord 2023. We have Colonel, now Congressman Keith Self, a West Point graduate, joins us. Congressman, let's put a little meat on the bone. When you say a rogue regime, coming from someone with your heritage, training at West Point, finest military academy in the world, served with the historic, venerable 82nd Airborne. We'll talk a little bit in a minute about Normandy. When someone like you starts using the term for a president and his administration as a rogue regime, rogue group, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, they are trying to be the legislative branch as well as the executive branch. The legislative branch is the branch of government in our separation of powers that passes laws. The executive branch executes those laws, or in the case of the Biden administration, does not execute the laws, and not only does not execute the laws of the land, but tries to make the laws of the land that they want made. That, to me, is a rogue administration.
What other, you had mentioned one of many, and let's go into detail. Tell us about the pistol brace. Why did you think that was unconstitutional, illegal? You voted in that kind of historic move of Congressman Clyde to overturn this with a new bill. Talk to me about that. Then I want to talk, what other elements do you see as rogue? What other executive orders come to mind?
Well, the pistol brace is simply a piece of plastic that allows disabled veterans and other people, women, for instance, to handle their pistol better. It is absolutely constitutional under the Second Amendment. This is definitely an infringement. So that's the pistol brace rule. We also have executive orders on electric vehicles, on gas stoves. They're looking at your heating and air conditioning system. So they are throwing everything against the wall to try to, one, kill the fossil fuel industry, and two, control what you buy, what you use. So this is one of the biggest ones because it falls under the Second Amendment. But there are many others that they're trying to get through.
Is this because we were talking on the morning show about the differences here? The gap is so wide, you really can't negotiate this out. Are these traditional? Because look, I come from the South. I come from Virginia, and my family were all working class Democrats. The entire family. If you had mentioned when I was a little boy, somebody voting for Republican, they did vote. Some of them did vote for President Eisenhower, but that was different. He was looked at as a war hero. But even the concept of voting for a Republican was just something down south you didn't think of. What do you think is the driving motive force in back of this rogue administration? Because it's such a huge gap between traditional Americanism.
Well, you see the two worldviews in America on full display here. There is one worldview that still holds to individual responsibility, individual freedom. We call those conservatives. There is another worldview that talks about entire control by the government. So I've said for many months now that there are three things that they must destroy for the federal government to be totally autonomous. They've got to destroy our families, they've got to destroy our history, they've got to destroy our culture. So those are the three things, and religion. So those are the three things that they must destroy. Because if we answer to a higher being, as is our traditional Christian faith, then the federal government is not autonomous. It is not autocratic. It is not totally in charge, because we do answer to a higher being.
If we could play, if Memphis could play, that's a great tee up. I want to play what I've referred to since I first saw it on Saturday as a desecration. Not just a desecration, of Old Glory, but a deeper desecration that took place at the White House on the lawn. Let's go ahead and play this, and I want to bring in Congressman Keith Self for his observations. Memphis, you can go ahead and play it.
Welcome to the White House.
Thank you.
Happy Pride Month. Happy Pride Year. Happy Pride Life.
Yeah!
Transgender children.
You are beautiful.
You are heard.
You belong.
You are understood.
You are loved.
And you belong. One of the bravest and most inspiring people I've ever known. And
you're welcome.
Good folks.
Can we take a little video? Hi, Mr. President. It is an honor. Trans rights are human rights. Oh, it's a video.
The monument's in the back, right?
Gay news. Are we topless at the White House?
We want our kids just to be kids running around and, hey, eating too much sugar. To laugh with the friends that we wish we saw more often. To find solace in the arms of people who see us for who we are. To celebrate the beauty and the resilience of this community.
There's been some criticism also of the White House, the flag placement with the pride flag violating the U.S. flag code. Did anybody notice that or fail to notice that, or was it an intentional statement? Can you just explain what happened with that?
So the administration was proud again to display the pride flag. It was a historic event at the White House. It's centered around the love and family, and I think that's important. And so, we're not going to let anyone distract us from that. What was the meaning of the day? What was the meaning of having families here and to celebrate a community? I'm certainly not going to get into protocols from here, or I'll leave that to others. And so, we're proud of this historic event that we were able to put together here on the South Lawn for our families. And so I'll leave it there.
On the exposure incident on the South Lawn, having received the statement that the White House believes that was inappropriate, disrespectful, is there going to be a greater effort in the future to communicate a code of conduct for White House guests?
Look, as you mentioned, the statement that we put out, you heard from us earlier today, the behavior was simply unacceptable. We've been very clear about that. It was unfair to the hundreds of attendees who were there to celebrate their families. So, we're going to continue to be clear on that. And that type of behavior is, as I said, unacceptable. It's not appropriate. It's disrespectful. And let's not, it really does not reflect the event that we had.
It totally reflects the event. It was a desecration. Colonel Self, I want to go to the part where the individual that is residing at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue says that these are the bravest, and currently the commander-in-chief of our armed forces, says that this freak show are the bravest people he's ever met, ever known. Your thoughts on that comment, sir?
That's abominable. The bravest men that I know probably wear prosthesis. Let's take John Wayne Walding, the Shock Valley battle in Afghanistan. The battle that had the most silver stars of any battle in American history. He had his legs shot off about 19 minutes into a 4 or 5 hour gun battle. Those are brave men. One of those silver stars was upgraded to the Medal of Honor. And I could go on and on. Those are the brave men and women in America. The brave men and women in America run into fires to save your family. The brave men and women, there was one in Allen, Texas within the past couple of months, 4 minutes from hearing the first shot to taking down the gunman. That's a cop. That's a fireman. That's a soldier. That's a Marine. That's an Air Force. Those are the bravest men, the men who protect our freedoms, not who take our freedoms and turn it into license like you saw on the White House lawn. Those are the brave men and women of America.
Colonel Self, you see the today is Flag Day, and we've been honoring Flag Day. We've got a live stream going on our Getter channel right now with General Flynn and others all day from 10 a.m. to 6 to commemorate Old Glory. When you see Old Glory there at the White House and you see this abomination, whatever this flag they've got, that's really the Democrat Party flag in a place of honor between Old Glories. As someone served with the 82nd Airborne, tell me what your thoughts are.
Well, I will tell you, I wore the flag of our nation on my right shoulder for many years. It was on my tactical uniform. I wore it into to combat, and I will tell you, that's the flag that I serve. That's the flag that ought to be on the highest flagpole we have. And frankly, that's the only one that ought to fly, except for state flags, maybe the POW flag. So absolutely, those are the flags that represent our nation.
Congressman, there's just a report out today that trailing 12 months, because I know you're very focused on this about spending, report out that the trailing 12 months deficit is $2.1 trillion. And the reason is that government expenditures are still about 25% of GDP, but tax revenues have fallen back to historical levels now of 17% because the economy's slowing. And they're projecting the economy is only going to grow at 1.1% this year, so the deficit is going to get bigger. You and your colleagues, particularly what I would call the deficit hawks, are people that are really focused on preserving the robust nature of American capitalism. What's the thinking now of the House, of how do we get, given that many of your colleagues kind of gave away the game with giving Biden this debt ceiling, as you predicted, it's going to be far bigger than a $4 trillion added deficit. The thinking of you and your colleagues that are really put foremost the nation's economy, the nation's balance sheet, the health of our economy for future generations. What's your guys thinking now?
Well, the debt is an existential threat to our republic. We must get it under control because the plaque in our arteries is growing, and eventually we will have a heart attack, regardless of what you want to call it, a shutdown, a default, what you want to call it, we will have a severe experience. Now, I will tell you, we are committed to this because, frankly, of the last 22 years, Republicans have held a majority in the House of Representatives for 16 years, 16 out of the last 22 years. That's the same time period that our deficit has grown from 10 trillion to 32 trillion. We've held a majority in the House more than 2/3 of the time during that time period from 10 trillion to $32 trillion. That's what this Republican majority and this small group of conservatives is committed to stopping.
I just want to go back. When you say, for someone like you who's, you're not a fire breather, when you say, given, the Chinese Communist Party threat, given your service to your country, given you come from West Point, when you say the debt's an existential threat, and I know the Democrats don't think this, so they want to keep going this so radical. Are there members of this conference that don't agree with you, that don't understand that this is now maybe our biggest national security threat is ourselves in the printing of this money and the running up of debt? Are there members of your conference that think that don't agree with you, don't get that?
Well, I will say that I put it this way. There are people that are philosophically conservative. They will say that they're conservative. They will opine that they are conservative, but operationally, they are not willing to make the hard decisions to be conservative, because a conservative does not run up $4 trillion in debt over 19 months. That is not a conservative position. I'm not going to characterize my colleagues in the House, but I will just say that is not a conservative position.
Going forward, how are we going to rectify this? What's your recommendation? A lot of people know that you've been on the show, follow you, understand your thinking. What's your action plan? How do we try to get people to say the conservative to start to, because the times of easy decisions are in back of us. We have nothing but hard calls, but we got to start making those hard calls. So what would be your recommendation?
Well, I will ask people to continue to contact your representatives, because I hear from several of my colleagues who made yes votes on the debt ceiling bill. They're getting a lot of calls from their constituents. I encourage you to continue to do that. Now, going forward, which was your question, we've got to make use of the appropriations process. We've got to set a top line. We've got to hold to it. We've got to make sure that we don't have rescissions that we make and then backfill spending with those rescissions. That's one of the keys, because right now I think the plan is to, yes, we can tell the American people that we have made a rescission of a certain amount of money, but then if we hold it to simply backfill this spending, we haven't done anything. So we've got to make sure that we set a good top line and that we hold to it. So the appropriations process is our next opportunity to make the changes that we need to in the spending, the out of control spending.
Do you think that, given that leadership waved off from the debt ceiling, do you think you feel now that they understand the gravity of the situation? So come about 100 days. If you go through regular order, this will all come up in mid-September. Of course, the Senate's not going to agree, but this will come down to, the run up to 30 September, the end of the fiscal year. This will be another showdown. Do you think people have the moral fortitude and courage to force Biden to shut down the government or just go to another CR and another omnibus? Or do you think your colleagues now understand the gravity of the situation in this moment in American history?
I don't know, Steve. I honestly do not know. I will tell you that I do hear some pessimism that we're simply headed for a showdown, maybe a shutdown, maybe a CR, maybe an omnibus. We've said no omnibuses, but you know how that can change. So I honestly don't know the answer to your question, but I will tell you this is serious. We need to get serious about the spending from the federal government, or we will just continue to add to that debt, and eventually something will crash.
Colonel Self, how do people follow you now? You're straightforward and honest, because this is all to be determined. This next 100 days is going to be just as vital in the House, because they're going to have a massive fight in mid-September about all these topics. How do people find out more about you?
Well, on social media, they're all kind of alike. Rep Keith Self, or you can sign up for my official weekly newsletter at keithself.house.gov. So either way, we'd be happy to have you follow us.
Congressman Self, Colonel Self, thank you very much for joining us. I know the Warren Posse and Georgia coming on, so we'll make sure everybody follows and gets the newsletter. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Steve. Take care.
Thank you. The Colonel is one of the key parts of backing Andy Clyde to get this pistol brace through. We got tons of fights in the House, as you know. We're going to be wall to wall on it. He's one of the brave folks that have stood up here and fought the particularly the rule to bring it forward. So another one of the fighters. Quite frankly, I think brutally honest, doesn't know. This is why this audience is going to be so critical to the decisions that get made here. One of the things I want to do, and I really want to thank Colonel Mills for breaking away, setting up some time. I got to get people, we talk about existential threats. We said on the morning show, and this is increasingly disturbing to me, we're being enveloped by the Chinese Communist Party, and now it's not even shy. And Biden and this tributary state mentality is kowtown sending Blinken over to Beijing. I've asked Colonel Mills, and he's done it, to give us one of his great briefings on this kind of envelopment in the Caribbean and Cuba and all of it, and why this is truly a knife at the throat of the United States of America. Colonel, I'm going to turn it over to you. You've got your slides. Just do it like you're briefing the The War Room Posse is at least a 3-star, right? Just do it like your traditional. You're briefing a 3-star. You got the War Room Posse, and I'll ask the questions for the posse as I see it up on social media. Go ahead and let it rip.
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. First, I got the Caribbean, and then if you want to go to the Cyber Blitz slide for Volt Typhoon. But first of all, there was this news story that came out about and we're showing the cyber. Okay, here we go. Let's go with this slide first. There was this news story that came out about a Chinese spy base in Cuba, and I'm going like, that's like a 23-year-old news story. They're using the old Lourdes complex here, but it's not just the spy base at Cuba, which China is taking over from Russia. There's many things that are going on. First of all, so here's the spy base, the Lourdes complex, just a little bit to the left of Havana. Got to worry about this. This is direct signals collection, but it could be other things too. Over here in the Gulf of Mexico, much of this oval is actually international waters. There are Chinese oil platforms, both in international waters and also inside the Mexican economic zone. I'm very concerned about these. What's going on these oil platforms beyond getting gas and oil? Over here in the Bahamas, I'm very concerned because I was right here right before the virus. I was over here in the Bahamas. We have a very sensitive U.S. facility, and China essentially runs the Bahamas. All I could get out of people is, where are the Americans? What happened to them? And we don't like the Chinese. Very serious matter. Okay, Puerto Rico, population flight, fentanyl. This is a really concern, and there's a lot of fentanyl comes from China, and it's ravishing Puerto Rico. And then Panama. Okay, very important. For those who don't remember, Panama was made by the American. It's been greatly expanded, and the Chinese essentially run Panama right now. Again, they're asking, where are the Americans? And they shut down the Panama Canal. That's 50% of our Navy off the table. Okay, let's go through. So again, a Lourdes complex right here, a little bit to the left of Havana.
Hang on, Colonel, hang on for a second. How have these encroachments happened? Particularly, I've been to the Bahamas, and I know people down in the Bahamas saying, hey, this is just open. They're building the biggest, I think, embassy in the world complex. A lot of it's to track our submarines. But what you just mentioned right there, how has this all gone on without some sort of firestorm coming out of DOD or State Department?
DOD, frankly, is not even involved in relatively in Central and South America. That is a backwater, and we should be all over Central and South America. Now, in all fairness, the current Southcom commander, she has been yelling about this and putting out brief after brief. She's basically been ignored, both by Congress and the White House. But it goes back further than that. State Department, having done a number of bilaterals with different key countries in Central and South America, it's still this horrible attitude at Foggy Bottom of the bad old days of the death squads, the bad old days of military regimes. They don't really want to talk to us. We'll just we're going to lead from the rear. In fact, we're not even going to lead from the rear. We're going to lead from the locker room. Actually, we're going to lead from the laundry room behind the locker room and not even get out of the playing field. These countries want to engage with America. China is all over the place, and their number one question is, where is America? It's a horrible, horrible attitude. It's toxic woke that goes back 20 years at State Department. And that's the basic foundation of what happened here with State Department.
Just one thing, I just want to make sure, in the change in the combatant commanders, we do have a Southern Command. In fact, I think General Kelly was Southern Command before we brought him into DHS. We do have a command that totally focuses on Central America, the Caribbean, and Latin America, correct?
We do. It's very poorly resourced. It's in Miami. One of my suggestions is actually to move it, or at least an advanced element, to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico would be ideal. But all the littoral combat ships that big Navy doesn't really want anyway, give 15 to 20 of those to Southern Command, and that way we would have an immediate presence in the Caribbean and South America. This is just absolute the lack of strategic clarity and thinking at State and Department of Defense.
Before we go to the next slide, last question for this is China has a very well thought through policy here, right? This is just not happenstance. This is an organized, strategic level endeavor that they're undertaking.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of this, the vanguard is Belt and Road, big loans for very poor, impoverished countries, and payoffs to leaders. And even if they're not paying off the leaders, leaders just can't say no to these. And oftentimes we've seen this; they're intentionally mistranslated, and by law, the Chinese version is the one that takes precedent. And they totally have done this over and over again, mistranslated the documents intentionally, and taken advantage of these countries. And within a couple of years, these countries, they have to start handing over assets because they can't make the payments.
Colonel Mills, hang on, we're going to continue the briefing. I'm going to take a short commercial break. Colonel Mills will be on the other side. We got the Royce White is going to join us. He's been on fire, always on fire, been really on fire the last couple of days. We're going to come back to this briefing or take a short commercial break. The Chinese Communist Party's taking the reverse strategy of the British East India Company, predatory capitalism, to capture elite capture in developing nations. Short commercial break. Colonel Mills tells about the envelopment of the United States from Latin America, Central America, and the Caribbean next in the War Room.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, I've got Colonel John Mills. What I'm going to do is get out of the way and let this briefing continue. Colonel Mills, go ahead and take it away. This is the envelopment of the United States from the South, the Caribbean, Central America, Latin America. Colonel John Mills.
Okay. Again, 90 miles from Havana to American territory, 90 miles from the Bahamas to American territory. They are surrounding us already. So this is a very important one. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of details here. We have a very sensitive facility on Andros Island right here. And coincidentally, like you said, a very, very large Chinese embassy here in Nassau, again, the capital. And again, the only question I had, I always talk to the man and woman on the street, where are the Americans? And again, this is even open for Huawei runs the infrastructure for the entire island complex. We don't have an ambassador there. We have a charge d'affaires. We need to get an ambassador, kick Huawei out, because they're provisioning this site that's even closer, 40 miles. Very dangerous, very dangerous. Okay, Panama Canal. Again, Chinese companies all over the place on both ends, running the pilotage services. They want the contract to run water management services. It's very weird. It's been announced. It's been pulled back. Been announced again. Army Corps of Engineers brought in to oversee. They want the water management. That way they can flood or drain the Panama Canal at will. Howard Air Force Base, that's where we should negotiate a return. So we have a U.S. presence there. They want us back. They want us back. Okay, so, and this is Roosevelt Road, a beautiful naval air station and naval station. They didn't reopen this. Puerto Rico wants us back. Okay, all of the Vieques Island stuff, that was total chicanery of the nonprofits. Okay, that was total chicanery. So, what we need to do, we need to eject the CCP from the Bahamas. We need to inspect those Gulf oil platforms and figure out what they're up to on them. We need to bring Southern Command forward from Hawaii, at least a forward presence to Puerto Rico. We need to negotiate a return to Panama, and we need to harden. We need to harden South Florida. We supposedly have some Air Force aircraft, guard, reserve, or active on alert at home, the old homestead. But we don't have any missiles, no missile defense. We have nothing. So we need, those are the 5 things we need to harden the Caribbean. So let's roll into the cyber blitz. And this is what's going on with Typhoon Volt. I'm going to have to go back here. There we go. There we go. There we go. Chinese assault is already underway. And coincidentally, we have Section 1088 of the 2023 National Defense Authorization Act. The Chinese cyber blitz is all about power, shutting down our domestic power. It's about our ports, and it's about our plants of our defense industrial base. Okay, a review. Now we have a Chinese attack on Guam. This should be considered an attack, not a law enforcement action. This should be considered an attack. It's Volt Typhoon, excuse me. And it was based, they were attacking the Microsoft Windows environment, which is essentially the interface environment for a lot of complex. And I'm not going to show you on the map where we have satellite ground stations, where we have undersea cable landings, things like that. Those are too sensitive. But our major facilities are
Hang on a second. Slow down. Tell people what happened in Guam, because this is, I keep saying, Navarro was on here a week ago talking about criminal activity, criminal hackers. I said, no. They're definitely criminals, but the Chinese Communist Party has partnered with the criminal Tongs from the beginning. This Mao Zedong made a deal with them back in the 1930s. This is an act of war. Walk me through, give me a minute on what happened in Guam and why it's an act of war.
Yeah, they embedded malware so they could remotely access and shut down our critical infrastructure. That could be our command and control systems. It could be missile defense. It could be air defense. They deposited it. In the old days, the Soviets supposedly pre-planted nuke devices. The Chinese are pre-planting malware so they can at will shut down our sensitive networks. That's what they did in Guam.
Okay, one more time. When you talk about the cyber, I want this cyber blitz out of, I think this is potentially as dangerous, maybe even more dangerous than the Cuban Missile Crisis, because they have the ability. This is just not listening stations. That's the way the media's kind of played it. This is a platform for offensive cyber warfare against the United States, against our grid and other things. This is also the potential for biological warfare, a platform just 90 miles off the coast. Walk me through, give me a minute or two on the cyber blitz possibilities emanating from Cuba by the Chinese Communist Party.
Well, emanating from Cuba, that could be a forward outpost to project cyber effects into America. Savannah on the East Coast is our fourth largest container port, and that's not too far up the coast. And talking about ports, this is really important. This is the combined Los Angeles and Long Beach harbor. And one of the things now, 75% of all port cranes are made where? In China. So that means out of the, there's potentially 116 Chinese cyber spy cranes. So these are not just these huge cranes. You got to look at them as endpoints, IP endpoints on the world architecture that Chinese intelligence runs. So right here in this very important harbor, the Chinese already have advanced guards right there. They've essentially, these cranes, they can imbalance, they can spy, they can topple the cranes over. Okay, here are 9 of the biggest cranes against one of the largest container ships. This was just in Los Angeles Harbor. So there's 9 cranes here. Like these 9, every one of these came from China. Every one of these, and you can fool around and override the emergency systems here to trick and confuse the crane to thinking that it's in balance where it's actually out of balance. All these cranes could topple over onto this ship, put all the cranes out of commission, the ship out of commission, the berth out of commission. When we're trying to generate and project force to deter or actually defeat, engage China, they could be easily taking out our ports.
Do you believe Cyber Command is on top of this? We got to bounce here in a moment, Colonel. But are you confident that Cyber Command is on top of this?
My concern, based on open source reporting, is the Cyber Command plus Five Eyes partners have all been focused on Ukraine. They've done a good job of shutting down Russia and China, which was providing a lot of muscle. That's a problem, though. They're totally committed and focused on Ukraine when they should be worrying about this. That's my concern. They're overcommitted to the Ukraine. They've done a good job, but what about the main game in the Pacific? That's my concern. They're distracted.
Colonel Mills, how do they get to your book? How do they get to all the great content you're putting up every day?
Thank you, Steve. Colonel Ret John, Colonel R.E.T. John on Substack, Getter and Truth, thenationwillfollow.com, thenationwillfollow.com, and my time in the deep state, Find the Deep State. And then this fall, coming out from Skyhorse, is going to be the new book, The War Against the Deep State, The War Against the Deep State. Watch for it in the fall. Thank you.
Colonel Mills, thank you very much. Honored to have you on here. Everybody, by the way, this cyber, remember, in unrestricted warfare, information, economic warfare, and cyber warfare are the key elements before you get to kinetic. What we're setting us up for is that the Chinese are never going to have to go to kinetic war. Not that we want to go to kinetic war, but they're going to win the old Sun Tzu. They're going to win without firing a bullet. You're a combatant now. Go to HomeTitleLock.com. You get a free analysis about your title. Because on the cyber crime and now the cyber warfare is the warfare of the 21st century. Make sure no one's taken your title and taking out a second mortgage on it. Because they get the $250,000 the second mortgage, and you pay the principal, and you pay these killer interest rates. Go to there today, HomeTitleLock.com. I want to thank Colonel Mills for that great briefing. Very disturbing, the envelopment by the CCP. Let's go to Royce White. You've been particularly on fire here the last couple of days, and particularly the last couple of episodes about regarding Trump, but really deeper than that: populist nationalism. Weak rhinos, feckless people, left-wing Democrats. Give us Royce White's theory of the case.
Well, last night I was sitting in my study and I had a pen and pad out, and just for intellectual honesty, I was writing down all the things I disagree with Donald Trump on, all the things that I would consider flaws, missteps, mistakes, lack of judgment, so on and so forth. And I get about halfway through, and I just ripped the sheet of paper off and ball it up and throw it over my shoulder. There was a little trash basket back over my back shoulder. I try to make it in because I'm a competitor like that. But there's a bunch of paper balls sitting on the floor around because I'm not much of a good shot anymore. And I wrote one word down on the next sheet, on the next page, and it was the word fear. Whose fear? The establishment's fear, right? And I think, any person, any individual who this establishment is going to marshal these type of resources, this amount of energy to take out, any individual who this establishment is willing to spare no expense, especially and most importantly in terms of their reputation, the legitimacy of their governance and the way that they go about all of their politics, anybody who they're willing to spare no expense around reputation to take out is exactly who we should throw down with. And what I see, my goal, my job as a young smash mouth populist in the movement commissioned by you, my job is to figure out who are the people out there that can be convinced and what will it take to convince them. And the media, the mainstream media industrial complex, they want you to get bogged down in the mud. They want you to get trapped in the WWE politics. They want you to look at all of Donald Trump's mistakes or flaws or personality problems or whatever the case may be and allow you to justify turning a blind eye to this tyranny on behalf of those set of opinions. And in most cases, they want to present them as facts, but I would say most of them are opinions. And the reality is, none of the flaws of Donald Trump is why people don't like him. I mean, that's the biggest scam in the entire narrative. And I don't care. Across the political spectrum, across the aisle. I don't care if you're right wing, left wing, progressive, conservative, populist, neocon, neoliberal, in the middle, independent, libertarian, Christian, Muslim. I don't care who you are. They put one man at the center of the focus and tried to tell you that his mistakes or his flaws are the reason why you're going to turn a blind eye to their tyranny. And there's nothing more dishonest or corrupt than that. So I have one word on a piece of paper that validates my unequivocal support of Donald Trump in 2024, and I think it should for the rest of the nation. Not just the Republicans, Democrats as well, independents as well. Whoever the corrupt elite are going to marshal all their resources to take out, we should support, because the corrupt don't spend that much time and energy trying to take out the corrupt. When people are corrupt and our corrupt elites believe they're corrupt, they will help them succeed. They will help them. Even if they have to put on a show, they'll help them. So on the back end, they can buy off whatever integrity they think they can buy off, because that's how the corrupt work. Donald Trump's not willing to fold, and he's shown that a number of times, and that's what people reject. It's not even just the elites. It's not just the elites. It's all of us at home. We want to find a reason in Donald Trump not to support him. But it's really our comfortability with the status quo. It's not when he says, grab them by the vagina that we really have a problem with. Our entire society is riddled with pornography and vulgarity and any manner of perversions of sexuality and morality and ethics and so on and so forth. We don't like Donald Trump. We're uncomfortable with him because we couldn't imagine having $1 billion in the twilight of our life and staking everything we have to speak an uncomfortable and inconvenient truth. Many of us couldn't imagine it. And that's the loss of sacred honor in the American citizen and in the American mind.
I got to play this sacrilege, this desecration I went over because I need your observation on this. When you talk about the fear they're putting in people, and then you look at what the alternative is, and it couldn't be any clearer. They couldn't be rubbing your nose in it more. Let's go ahead and play this, and I'll jump in to get Royce White's observations.
Welcome to the White House.
Thank you.
Happy Pride Month. Happy Pride Year. Happy Pride Life.
Yeah!
Transgender children.
You are beautiful.
You are heard.
You belong.
You are understood.
You are loved.
And you belong. Some of the bravest and most inspiring people I've ever known. And
you're welcome.
Good folks.
Can we take a little video? Hi, Mr. President. It is an honor. Trans rights are human rights. Oh, it's a video. Oh, it's a
video. The monument is right?
Gay news. Are we topless at the White House?
We want our kids just to be kids running around and, hey, eating too much sugar. To laugh with the friends that we wish we saw more often. To find solace in the arms of people who see us for who we are. To celebrate the beauty and the resilience of this community.
There's been some criticism also of the White House, the flag placement, the pride flag violating the U.S. flag code. Did anybody notice that or fail to notice that, or was it an intentional statement? Can you just explain what happened with that?
So the administration was proud again to display the pride
proud
flag.
Again. Proud to that's their flag. That's their flag, to desecrate Old Glory. Royce White, your observations on this desecration took place over the weekend at the White House.
What sticks out to me is that a big portion of the American people are willing to allow the mainstream media industrial complex to pull them in to this debate about morality and ethics. And it's clearly a contradiction. It's clearly hypocrisy. It's clearly rules are for thee and not for me when it comes to sexual perversion or sexual morals or ethics. I mean, it's as clear as day. And to talk about Donald Trump's personal life or his past and women and all of these different things that they want to center the narrative around, it's all to say, hey, all of the sexual ethics we want to uphold is just for our political opponents. It's the same thing with the lawfare. All the equal application of law is an afterthought. It's a foregone conclusion. There is no more equal application of the law. All there is our political agenda, and whatever means justify the end. Whatever end justify the mean. My problem with it is, again, remember when they said that Donald Trump wasn't mentally stable, that he wasn't, there was a huge, and I know this because I'm a mental health advocate, so I pay attention to the murmurs from the psychological community or the mental health community. And we do have a huge mental health problem, and many conservatives and populists would agree. It's being hijacked now, just like black people, just like Hispanics, just like Jews, just like Christians, just like all these other movements are being hijacked. But I distinctly remember when they tried to make it seem like Donald Trump was not mentally fit to hold office. And here we have a man in Joe Biden who can barely remember the cue cards that were written for him to go up here and put on this charade. And he's so aloof. He's so out there in the wind. We got dudes pulling their tits out on the South Lawn, and he thinks that it's a proud moment. I mean, we have guys pulling their tits out on the South Lawn, and we're talking about Donald Trump and the documents that he chose, the secret documents or the classified material that he as the president chose to keep and look over. Maybe he needed to do something. I don't know. I don't know what the case is. But I know one thing. There's nothing more disgraceful than a guy pulling his tits out on the South Lawn. The sacred honor of the White House, the sacred honor of the American flag, the sacred honor of our nation and our citizenship is on full tilt attack by these people. I don't understand who votes for them. I don't understand who wants to follow them. All the black men who I run into, I just ask them right out in the open, are you really following these people? Or are you trying to get laid? Because if you're trying to get laid, I don't respect you. Don't shake my hand. Don't speak to me. If you really believe these people, let's talk about why. If you're really following them genuinely, let's talk about why. I don't understand it.
Royce, how do people, we put your podcast up every night on both my site and War Room, and our audience loves it. I think we're averaging, 25, 30, 35,000 people just coming from ours. How do people get, and how they share it, how they get to your podcast, how they get to your writings, how they get to all of it, because your voice is becoming more and more prominent in the American cultural and political scene?
Well, you can find the podcast right now on YouTube. It premieres 9 p.m. on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We try to keep that schedule, but I throw in extra episodes all the time like I did this week due to this indictment and the arraignment and the whole deal. We had a special episode last night on the indictment. But you can follow me on Getter. You can follow me on True Social. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I'm still there for now, although I get suspended and banned and, all those things every once in a while. You can find the podcast on Rumble. It usually airs at 9 p.m. as well on every day that we do on YouTube. And you can find us on all the major audio platforms as well. We haven't been censored there yet, so we're happy about that.
And I can break some news here. I'm going to be on Royce, honored to be on Royce's podcast early next week. We'll give you a time as we get closer to it. Royce White, thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Very powerful, as usual. Okay, we're going to be back here tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. We're going to be on fire. You're at Bomber Command on the offensive movement against the Biden crime syndicate. See you tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. in the War Room.